What's up, guys? Welcome back to Between the Pylons. I'm John Camacho. Thank you so much for watching. You guys, today we are breaking down the Steelers draft class. We're doing the 2021 breakdown here. So just for those of you who don't watch my channel or anything, I will be talking about the picks in the first 3 rounds at length. At the end, I will give my best and worst move, my grades and everything like that. Before we get to that, hey, if you don't mind liking this video, if you enjoy it, subscribing to the channel if you think you enjoy more content from me, and let's get started just taking a look at the entire draft review here. This is their entire draft class, obviously going skill position early with running back, tight end, got a guard, which I think was very important, grabbing a tackle in the 4th round. They really I think the offensive line was obviously an issue and something they lost some pieces in free agency with Pouncey retiring, Villanueva moving on. So yeah, certainly a position of need. And then for the rest of the draft, they pretty much attacked that defensive line. You know, you had a Bud Dupree leave for free agency, gets a payday in Tennessee, so there's certainly some need there on the defensive line. Looks like they attacked it a little bit with a linebacker out of Miami, Quincy Roche, which I think a lot of people thought was going to go a lot earlier. Spent another pick on Buddy Johnson, an inside linebacker out of Texas A&M. Went Texas A&M a couple times in this draft, actually. I didn't realize that. But overall, interesting draft. Obviously, I think the draft hinges on those first couple skill positions. If they are able to get over the hump and get Big Ben one last championship, I think that was kind of the theme of this draft. I think that was the theme of this offseason for the Steelers. The Steelers know that they are going to be having a little bit of a change of the guard probably next year. But this is I feel like their last year, the one last hurrah with a Big Ben. I think this is their chance to, put everything all in and really say, hey, we're going to go for it this year. We're going to see, they were obviously a great team last year, went 9-0 to start the season. Things kind of fell off at the wrong time, getting into the playoffs and definitely, obviously kind of lost early on in the playoffs for the most part. So wasn't a great end of the season, but we certainly saw the potential of a superstar team, right? I think that's fair to say. Yeah, add an extra couple pieces. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the Steelers if they're able to make a deep playoff and possibly Super Bowl run here with this roster. Hey, it'll be fun to see if Big Ben can make it happen one last time. Let's get into the draft. Let's talk about first Najee Harris. And if you're somebody who watches my channel or you know what I'm about, you know that I was very surprised that Najee Harris went first round 24 overall. I really was. And I know there was a lot of rumors. I certainly should not have been surprised. I just thought it was smoke. And my explanation was, look at the Steelers past draft. Look at what they do. They don't draft running backs early. They take shots on running backs from the 3rd to 6th round usually. And they pretty much do it every year. So I did not think they were going to change that mindset this year. I certainly didn't expect this to happen. Again, I was wrong. I'll take the L there. I was certainly wrong. But Najee Harris, I mean, man, couldn't find a better running back to fit their skill set. Obviously has great lateral agility, good power and vision, pad level and balance is there. Really good ball skills. I will say, the top end speed isn't special. You look at, he does have kind of a build up speed. I don't think he's 0 to 60 in 2 seconds. I really don't. And I said explosiveness out of cuts. And again, these are very nitpicky cons, by the way. So let's just don't hear what I'm not saying. He absolutely deserved to be the 24th pick in the draft. I get it. But when you look at Najee Harris, you see a little bit of a build up speed. You don't see that 0 to 60, shot out of a cannon speed. And that's okay. He's a bigger body dude. He has everything you want from a running back perspective. So that top end explosiveness right out of the cut. Yeah. I mean, it's totally fine that you don't see that. It's, he's a big guy. He's an actual 3-down running back. He's not your little scat back or anything like that. He certainly has enough speed for the NFL. He certainly has everything that you want from a running back position. I would imagine he's going to be used heavily and often this year to kind of lean on him when Big Ben and the passing attack isn't working the way maybe they want it to. They certainly felt like they were missing a piece at the running back position, and they were. They James Conner was, he was a step down significantly from the kind of running backs I feel like they're used to having. James Conner wasn't really the guy. James Conner moves on, and Najee Harris is going to be there. He'll be spelled a little bit by Anthony McFarland. Maybe the dude out of Kentucky gets a bounce back. We'll see. I don't know. I think Anthony McFarland's probably going to be that number 2. That he's just my guy. I thought he did pop a little bit last year. That's the running back position, and I think going to be a very, very big part of this offense. Moving on to their second round pick, getting what I think is the second best tight end in this class. Pat Freiermuth, and there's certainly a teardrop, obviously, from Kyle Pitts, but Pat Freiermuth, tight end out of Penn State, great contested catch, great big physical target. He's a really good athlete. I do think he struggled a little bit at the top of his routes, making those cut, maybe having like that innate quickness and things like that. There's certainly some small issues there at the top of his routes from a route running perspective, but that's okay. I think that's something you can work on. And then I did think struggled at the point of attack sometimes. People call him Baby Gronk. To be Baby Gronk, you have to be a little bit better of a blocker than he is. So that would be the one thing I would say about his overall tight end ability. I think that's why he didn't go first round. Just to be totally fair, this is a receiving tight end. This is I feel like a maybe more polished Mike Gesicki type of guy, and I hope that's not an insult. I hope people don't take that the wrong way. Mike Gesicki came out of college just the ultimate tight end athlete. Really wasn't a blocker. Really was just your move tight end who is a big receiver essentially. I see Pat Freiermuth as much more of a blocker than Gesicki. That's why I said a more polished Mike Gesicki. But I do see him as a receiving weapon, and that's again where I put that. I view this as another weapon for that offense. And again, they went at weapons early this year to build around a Ben Roethlisberger and give him one last shot at getting a championship, getting another championship under his belt. It's I think a good move. And then in the third round, I think they addressed their biggest need. I really do. Kendra Green, a guard out of Illinois. Maybe they ask him to play center. Obviously, Pouncey is gone. Hopefully, this is a guy who can start day one. He was a 3-year starter at college. He's a good run blocker, has guard center value. So that's why I say maybe he will be that center for them. He does have short arms and he will struggle versus speed a little bit. But overall, I think you're getting a guy who has the ability to start day one. Maybe not a guaranteed plug and play type of guy, but I certainly think that is the upside from this pick. And I think that's the hope when you look at the Steelers. I think that's the hope of what they're trying to get out of this third round pick here, and hopefully a really good pick for them and a guy that can help on that offensive line. And as I said at the beginning, they did draft another tackle out of Texas A&M in the fourth round. So they did address the offensive line, and hopefully, hopefully you have some young pieces that can really step up. I think that's the biggest thing. There's certainly going to be some unproven commodities starting on that offensive line, and you never know what you're going to get with things like that. I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be an offensive line expert or really have a deep understanding of their backups or anything like that for what they have in roster. I know they brought in a tackle in free agency, I believe Nick Banner or something like that. I don't know. I think he's kind of a supplemental piece. I don't know if he's the answer or anything like that, but we'll see. All right, guys, let's move on to some of my grades, and I'll give you my best, worst, and then my final grades here, and we'll get out of here. So for my best move, I did think their best move was building around Big Ben, right? I think they brought in some great pieces to build around Ben to really, it's the theme of this entire video, the theme of their draft. I've said it a handful of times. I don't need to, rephrase the same thing I've said a handful of times. You get what I'm saying. They build around Ben. They give him one last shot at a Super Bowl and all those things. Let's move on to my worst move. And it's a little bit contradictory. I understand, but I did struggle with this one a little bit. I looked at their draft and was like, there's nothing I dislike. I like everything they did. I really do. No player that I specifically had a grudge with or didn't like or anything like that. So I'm gonna kind of go back to my roots, and I am somebody who's always been a big draft value guy. I've been somebody who's always I'm a little bit of a nerd when it comes to things like that. So running back in the first round is always going to surprise me. Running back in the first round is always going to be something that I'm like, is that the move? Are we sure? So that is my worst move. I will say, listen, this is a nitpicky, super nitpicky thing, but that's the only thing I can really look at and be like, okay, draft value rules, the rules of the draft, or whatever you want to say don't take a running back in the first round. But in that same, breath, I would also say, look at the way this draft played out. it was top heavy a little bit with running backs. There were 2 guys, you could say 3 guys essentially in this draft that were really worth an early pick, right? Javonte Williams going in the 2nd round is that 3rd guy. After that, there's a huge tier drop. The next running back off the board after Javonte Williams at 35 overall, I believe, right? Yeah, because they traded out of the Dolphins to go to 35 overall. It's Trey Sermon for the 49ers at the end of the 3rd round. Okay, so that was the teardrop, huge teardrop. And then you have other guys going and things like that, and we can talk about those guys, they have potential, blah, blah, blah. But like, that was the teardrop of like a really difference maker style of running back. You have 3 guys in this draft that you can really look at and be like, yeah, day 1 difference makers, like those moves. And if that's the case, you're sitting there in the 1st round. That is your only chance to go get a running back. You come into this draft with a mindset of, hey, we're gonna build around Ben, all of these things. You got to make that move. I said the exact same thing when I did the Jaguars video talking about Etienne going a pick later, 25 overall. I don't have a problem with it this year, and I think it's one of those things where we're gonna look back 3-4 years from now, and we're gonna lose the benefit of hindsight. We're gonna have the benefit of hindsight, excuse me, but we're gonna lose the benefit of nuance and the benefit of like take everything into account when we talk about these things. So I know that I'm saying that's my worst move. I know I have a worst move as the graphic and beside my head, but I don't really believe it, to be totally honest. And the other aspects of this draft I think make it a good move. So I know I'm contradicting myself a little bit, but I put a worst move for every one of these videos, and I had to do one here as well. But moving on to my grades, and I do break my grades down into 3 different categories. My first category being players, and my grade for the players is an A. I like all the players they got. I've talked about it at length at this point. I have no issues here. I really don't. I thought, getting a Quincy Roche in the 6th, really, really good pick. Getting the tackle out of Texas A&M in the 4th, I think is an underrated guy who might have a chance to start, or at least be a rotational starter, swing tackle at the beginning of his career. We'll see what happens with that. Some really, really good picks here. You got to love that. Moving on to draft value, and I'm giving it a B-. Draft value, because these grades are like in a vacuum, right? I break it down into these tiers and I do it in a vacuum. So in a vacuum grades, yeah, going a running back in the 1st round, not great value. Going tight end in the 2nd, when you probably could have gotten like one of those tier 2 linemen in that 2nd round range, you definitely could have. I know you could have. Yeah, it's that I will say, not great value. It's okay. It doesn't bother me a bit. Again, I like the pick. I like Pat Freiermuth. I don't have a problem with it. When lineman was a need, I am surprised they went a tight end over lineman in the 2nd. I am, and I think they made up for it with their next 2 picks. I get that. That's certainly a fair point. But that would just be another minor reason that draft value isn't in that A to B plus kind of range, right? And then needs, I'd B again, and again, the only reason it's a B instead of like an A is because I did think there were some needs at cornerback that they maybe could have addressed a little bit earlier. Not needs, but upcoming needs. I'll say that they are aging at the cornerback position, and I was surprised they didn't get, they drafted a corner in the 7th round, not obviously a premium pick by any standard, and I wouldn't expect a whole lot from him, or at least, hey, maybe he'll be great. You never know, but not something you have high expectations for in the 7th round. Would have liked them to address that. And then of course the offensive line conversation, I have already touched on that a handful of times, so I don't need to bring that back up, and that's why it's a B. Overall, guys, you look at this football team, you look at the Steelers, first of all, I love their draft. I really do. I think overall they brought him some really good pieces, and regardless of what happens after this 2021 season, they have a lot to work with. They need to find one quarterback to plug and play, and we'll see what happens there. But for the 2021 season, they have all the pieces. All right, they do. They have enough guys at that offensive line that I think they're going to be fine. They obviously have a really good defense, and then obviously offensive weapons and things like that. Man, there's nothing not to love, right? They have pieces all over the place with a Juju, with a Claypool, with a Johnson, all those guys, man. I mean, and they just added to it. This is a very dangerous football team. Be very exciting to see how far they can go in this 2021 season. But all right, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, hey, hit that like button. I would really appreciate it. It helps out the algorithm a whole lot. And then if you enjoy, me, or if you think you would enjoy more content from me, hit that subscribe button. I'm going to be making a ton of videos on this channel, really close to 1,000 subs. I'm really excited to hit that benchmark. So hopefully you'll join the journey with me, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.